High on this mountain peak stands a man. We can't see his face, only his back, and somehow that invites us to step into his place for a moment. Now, we are standing high above a sea of fog. Mountains appear and disappear in the distance as the mist moves slowly across the landscape. This moment feels almost like a held breath, the quiet pause after the climb. What we are looking at here is The Wanderer Above the Sea of Fog by German painter Caspar Friedrich, one of the most defining painters of the Romantic era. Friedrich painted his pictures in the years after the Napoleonic Wars, when Europe had just gone through decades of dramatic changes. Empires had risen and fallen, borders had shifted. The old order of the world no longer felt stable. Out of this atmosphere emerged Romanticism, a movement in which artists began to explore the inner life of the individual more openly. Emotion, reflection, and the search for meaning moved to the center of artistic thinking. And nature became one of the places where these questions could be contemplated. Looking at the painting, I can't help thinking about moments in my own life when I reached something I had worked towards for years, a long-held personal goal or the next step in my career. At last, I too had made it to the top of the mountain. And of course I expected that there, everything would finally fall into place and become clear. I think it's a very human desire, that desire to know with certainty that our lives make sense and that we are heading in the right direction. It's easy to read the painting that way, as an image of a life journey. And in that sense, we are not only looking for the next step on a hiking trail here, we're looking for orientation in life. What lies ahead? Where does this path lead? Was the climb worth it, after all? And yet, I so often had to realize that the fog doesn't lift because we made it to the top. It stays exactly as it was, hiding everything underneath, every valley and every path that would give a clear sense of direction. The horizon is there, but there's no visible destination waiting. Everything still remains uncertain, and all of a sudden I lost the illusion that arrival brings clarity. For many viewers in Friedrich's time, landscapes like the one we are looking at were not simply beautiful views. They were places where a person could confront their own thoughts and emotions. Romantic painters believed that nature could reveal something about the inner life of the individual. Standing in front of a landscape like this was therefore not just an aesthetic experience. It was a moment of reflection about your own life and direction. Friedrich himself was deeply drawn to this idea. His own life had been marked by early experiences of loss. Several members of his family died while he was still very young, including his brother, who drowned in a frozen lake while trying to rescue him. And in many of his paintings, that encounter between the individual and a larger force, nature, fate, or existence, becomes the core of the painting. But I want to take a closer look at what Friedrich also painted here. The landscape in the distance might dissolve into vapor, but the rocks in the foreground are painted with a lot of clarity and sharpness. And the wanderer, he does not move. He stands upright. He's centered, calm. This is not a man overwhelmed by nature. In many romantic paintings, nature appears immense. Huge crashing waves, storms rolling across the sky, horizons that seem to have no end. Standing in front of such landscapes, you were meant to feel the scale of the world around you and the small place you occupy within it. But Friedrich paints something slightly different here, and that totally changes the moment. The wanderer made it to the top. The landscape feels immense, and the fog did not lift. Yet, he stands with a steadiness that does not depend on it. What becomes clear is this: calm and peace can appear before certainty does. We often tend to believe calm will come once everything finally makes sense, as if we are waiting for some guarantee that the direction we chose was the right one all along. But this painting suggests something quite different. Calm does not come from certainty. It comes from how we stand inside uncertainty. This idea would not have been foreign to the romantic thinkers of Friedrich's time. They believe that meaning often appears not when the world becomes fully clear, but when we learn to live within its uncertainties. When we step away from this painting, many parts of our own lives will still remain open. The unclear decisions, the in-between phases, the moments where we don't quite know what comes next. But perhaps we leave with the image of someone who stands steady, someone who shows that calm and peace are not something waiting in the distance, but can begin right here.